Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. So we have kind of moved into that question that I plan on going to, which is what would you do differently? We both, again, you and I are similar in the fact that how we started, and we look back at that young coach now and we see the error in the way that we were thinking, the way that we were communicating with our players. But my question, Coach, is I would think a majority of coaches out there, maybe just because of the time, look back and the relationship piece with players is what they wish they could enhance. How do younger coaches get that at the right time?
Yeah, it's hard because when you're young, you want to skyrocket the profession, right? And you want to coach the highest level and do all that. And I feel like I was 45, I think, when I was 45 years old when I got this job, and that's pretty young nowadays. But I felt like I was, and I still feel like I'm super old, but you can't compare yourself to other people, and I think we have to do a better job now as older coaches, mentoring the younger guys and letting them know. I can't have a staff meeting because I have 3 guys that work for me that I have no doubt are going to be great head coaches one day. And I can't sit here and preach to them it's all about winning and it's about this. I have to teach them, just as I had some guys teach me later in my career, that it is about the relationship piece. It is more about the kid, the individual. And if they watch me and they see me live that out, then hopefully they'll pick up on that if we have success, like we've been fortunate enough to have, and they'll carry that into their head coaching career. And I think we just have to. When I was coming up, when I was playing, and when I first started coaching, things were different, right? It was about, like we were just talking today about, I was taught to hold my emotions in, like it was a good thing to bottle everything up. Well, we've learned now that's the worst thing you can do, right? Well, it's the same thing with coaching, man. It's what I talk about with Vince Lombardi, who I, still I respect gratefully, but like I've moved on from that way of thinking because that was the way I was taught to do it, or thought I was supposed to do it. And I've learned over the course of time that that's not the way. And I think I could have been a lot more successful a lot earlier in my career if guys that are in the shoes that me and you are in now would have done a better job, mentoring us in that regard. And so I think it's up to us to help those young guys do that.
Yeah, what a great point. Mano Watsa, president of PGC, says more is caught than taught. So if we want our players to learn the cultures that we've set up, if we want our assistant coaches, younger assistant coaches, to grow and do better than we did back in the day, then we need to make sure that we are showing them with our actions, with the way we talk with them. And because if we're just saying words about, hey, make sure it's about relationships, but then your life doesn't show that in any way, I think then we let them down in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So relationships, going back and having more emphasis on those. Anything else that you would, if you knowing what you know now, if you could transport back in time, you're starting out, any other things that you would like to do differently?
It is a good question. Obviously, that's the biggest thing. Is it's not about winning and losing. It is. Of course, that's how we keep our jobs, right? I don't have this job if we don't win.
Right.
But I think I've learned over time that if you do the things that we've talked about, throughout this process, you will win. And so, yes, of course, that's number one, the relationship piece. But I think it would come back to the family piece. I can remember vividly, man, 22 years ago, I spent the night at the office after we lost the game. And I had my son that's playing for me now, or whatever, he was just born. He was a newborn. My wife was at home, and I never went home. And it was because we had lost the game. And it crushes me even to talk about it, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I literally woke up, or I didn't wake up. I never slept, but I remember our administrative assistant, secretary back then, walking by, and I'm like, "What are you doing here this late?" And she said, "What are you doing here this early?" And I had no idea that the night had passed. I wasn't doing anything. There was no cell phones really back then. There were the Nokias with the antenna, And so, I don't know what I was doing. It was too much, and I don't I don't live it like that anymore, man. And I've had so much more success, and I'm so much happier not being that way. And I think just not overthinking it all, man. It always comes down to that.
Thank you for sharing that, because that is powerful to hear. And a lot of those coaches that do have young families, and man, what a great reminder to get home,
Yeah.
and win at that job. Coach
Mhm.
Peeler at Highland Park says you got to win at the job that only you can do, like only you can do. So that's a really good reminder. What you said about early on, what coaches think will lead to winning is better X's and O's, better practice plans, better plays, more emphasis on film. And what gets in the way or what gets left behind is the relationships, the standards. But then you've noticed, and I feel like I've gotten there too, where it's flipped. It's Ted Lasso. Like
Yeah.
he goes in and it's not about winning. It's
Mhm.
about everything else, but then that's the byproduct of it. So how did you get to that realization?
You know, well, I watched Ted Lasso, number one. I got the believe sign over here behind me. If I can lower this, man. Some of my That's that little yellow piece back
Oh
over there.
yeah, I
That's
see.
believe.
And it's crooked. I love
I did it right,
that.
man. But
That's right.
I really do. I think it's the people. God bless me, man, and He put good people in my life, and so I wish I could say I just did it, But and the most important person to me, and I don't tell him enough. I'd probably tell. He would say I tell him too much. I don't think I tell him enough. Is Joe Golding. He really helped me change my course of life. But it's all of them. It's all the guys I've worked for. It's not the guys I've worked for. It's the guys I've worked with. I've been blessed to work with some unbelievable assistant coaches that kind of helped me along the way grow. I mentioned Kellen Sampson earlier, who's the associate head coach at Houston. Eric Malagy, who's the associate head coach at Kansas State, working for Jerome Tang. And guys like that I've in Cinco Boone, who is a great friend of mine who's now at UTA. But there's so many people at Talbot Hester. I can keep going on and on.
Yeah.
These are all quality people, not just great basketball coaches.
Yeah.
And they've, like I said, God bless me, man. He put all these people in my life when I really needed them, and they've helped me kind of mature and grow. Most of them are way younger than me, but they still helped me, And then I got to the point where I was working for Joe Golding and just putting him at the time in my life where I needed somebody like that. That's how I got there. It was just the people in my life. And then, again, Abilene Christian deserves a lot of credit for what I'm dealing with, or my growth. And that's that, I came to a place that, I mean, how many coaching staffs they go through the Division I transition and then they lose their job. And they gave us the chance to do this thing right. They wanted us to do it right. They didn't want us to try to make a quick fix. And we didn't know if we believed them at first, and we got a little nervous because we won like 8 games, then we won 12, then we won 15. We did it right. We barely won a little bit more each year. But we got there, and the next thing you know, we're winning 27 games, and we're in the NCAA tournament, Then we're back there again, and we're beating the University of Texas,
Yeah,
in
you
the NCAA
did.
tournament.
As a Baylor grad, I loved it. I loved watching that. One of my
People in the state of Texas, they either love us or they hate us because of that
That's
game.
fair. Yeah.
But it's just, like I said, I'm kind of getting off topic.
No,
but
you're
it's just
good.
Abilene Christian was a big part of that. This is an
Yeah.
unbelievable institution with great people. Obviously it's a Christian university, and that's a big part for me. But it's not just that. I mean, there's really good people here that care about us as people, and they expect us to win. My president reminds me every time. We are. You're supposed to run the race to win, right?
They
But
keep score. They keep
that's
score.
right. Keep score for a reason, but at the same time, we don't want to sacrifice our principles. And they gave us time, man, and that showed me, man, that you can do it right.
I love getting to hear about the path that God put you on and the people he put in your life, because there's no accident. There's no accident to people that come in our lives. And if you don't mind, I'll just like
Sure.
a 1-minute path, because I have a few people I'd like to thank in case they do hear, because as a 24-year-old, I mean, after leaving college, my life was a mess. In basketball, I kind of knew I think I knew what I was doing, but personally just a wreck. And my life looked like that. And Jeff Clarkson hired me at Naaman Forest as a varsity assistant because my high school coach told him he needed to. That year, it wasn't all perfect, but having that type of person if you know Clarkson and everybody,
I do, yeah.
the character that he has, the family man that he is. I got to see that even through my crazy times. His assistant, Cole Johnson, who's at Legacy Christian Academy now, was another one. I mean, night after night, staying at his house, talking with him and his wife about, there's ways I was screwing up, but they loved me through all that. And then to go to Wes Watson at McKinney High School, where, I mean, the guy he gave me so much grace while I was still failing miserably in life. And then all of that together, where God put my wife in my life, led me to Grapevine Faith, where just like you, the way ACU has shaped you and your coaching, faith has completely changed me, because it's not about winning here. Mm-hmm. It is way more about developing, mentoring, discipling these young men that God's put in my life. But I think if I was at someplace else, that drive inside of me that I kind of have to, keep down, the me monster would take over again. And so I loved hearing your story. And I don't know if those people will hear that, but thankful for the people in our lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the faith piece is important to me too. Nothing happens by accident, and I have no doubt God put me at Abilene Christian at that time in my life, which I thought was a negative when I came here. Because, I'd been somewhere for a long time. We were successful. A guy left and I thought I had a chance to get this job and I didn't. Right. And God put me here because I wasn't ready. And he allowed me to stay here until I was. And he put all those people that I've gotten to know here in my life to help me. I've grown so much. I've always been a Christian, but my faith has grown so much over the last 10 years, just because I've been able to see it, and I know that God doesn't make mistakes, man. He put me here for a reason.
You're right on the money. One of the worst things that can happen to people is that they are elevated to a position where their character won't sustain them. It won't work. And that's where I think you see sometimes is overnight, not really overnight success, because we know that does take a lot of work, but people that do move up the ladder quickly, if they're not prepared, they fail quickly. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we might think as coaches, like, when is my shot going to come? Like, what? I think those are great moments to make sure, self-reflect, look and see, is there an area of my life that is holding me back? I've been at Faith now 10 years, and I tell them all the time, 11, 12 years ago, I could not coach here. I could have maybe lied for a few weeks or months, but I would have been found out real quick. And so that you're right. Those doors are shut on purpose because our character and our lifestyles, he won't allow us to go through those. And so great reminder right there. Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.